We have some breaking news this morning. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has been kicked out of the Royal Lodge by his brother, the King.
Look like they're sort of, craving his attention and yearning for his friendship.
King Charles banishes his brother Andrew to a dilapidated, rodent-infested farmhouse. A former UK cabinet minister faces a criminal probe. The traditional watchdogs failed, but the server logs survived. Let's connect the dots. Look at this timestamp, August 2010, exactly 1 month after Jeffrey Epstein is released from house arrest. This specific email was sent from a private BT Internet BlackBerry. The sender recommends a Zeffirelli home on the Amalfi Coast, guaranteeing privacy with accompanying rooms for your guests. The word guest is deliberately placed in quotation marks. Cross-reference the redacted sender data with known travel logs to Mykonos, Greece. The sender is Lord Peter Mandelson, then a titan of the British government.
Essentially, if the real sin happened under the last Labour government, when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister, when Peter Mandelson was Business Secretary, that's when he was disclosing confidential, market-sensitive information, apparently to Jeffrey Epstein. The question about this government is why they appointed Peter Mandelson.
That whatever the relationship was between Peter Mandelson and Epstein, it didn't matter so long as nobody was looking directly at it. Now, somebody for whom that was a real matter of conscience, for whom fraternising with a known paedophile really was a moral issue, would have said, I'm just not wild about this. I'm not wild about sending Mandelson as envoy, as ambassador to Trump, who is himself a known associate of Epstein.
Whether or not this is the biggest or the second biggest or the third biggest.
While the world was distracted, the architect of New Labour was actively scouting private villas for convicted offenders' trafficking operations. Today, the digital paper trail has triggered a police raid on Mandelson's homes and simultaneously forced King Charles to permanently exile Prince Andrew to a crumbling, rat-infested farmhouse. Welcome to the collapse of the British establishment. Let's connect the dots.
Reports are that Andrew has left under the cover of darkness. Tell us more.
Yeah, very much so. Good morning, guys. Well, things are moving pretty fast, not only in royal land, but of course with this latest tranche of Epstein files that we've been going through over the last few days. And certainly Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has decided to leave his Royal Lodge mansion. This has been certainly the scene has been set over the last few months, with the King forcing him out as well as stripping him of all his titles and his honours. It was the final sort of mode of disgrace for Andrew after his involvement with Jeffrey Epstein, and it's ended up in a very sorry saga. He's no longer going to be living in such salubrious accommodation as his 30-room mansion and Royal Lodge in Windsor Park, and he's going to be in exile on the Sandringham estate in the countryside.
So he's been evicted much earlier than planned?
Yes, it certainly appears so. I mean, the King had told him in November that he was going to have to move out.
Zoom in on the timeline. It is February 2026. The U.S. Department of Justice drops 3 million pages of unredacted Epstein files. Within 48 hours, the British monarchy initiates a Black Ops eviction. Prince Andrew is stripped of his final titles, booted from the 30-room Royal Lodge under the cover of darkness, and banished to Marsh Farm on the King's private Sandringham estate.
Prince Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. His lease on Royal Lodge has, to date, provided him with legal protection to continue in residence. Formal notice has now been served to surrender the lease, and he will move to alternative private accommodation. These censors are deemed necessary, notwithstanding the fact that he continues to deny the allegations against him. Their Majesties wish to make clear that their thoughts and utmost sympathies have been and will remain with the victims and survivors of any and all forms of abuse. So just to repeat this breaking news, His Majesty the King has initiated a formal notice, a formal process to remove the style, titles and honours of Prince Andrew.
The British press is calling it the Shoebox Exile. But why the sudden, panicked urgency? Pull up document sequence 2011. It contains a sworn letter from a lawyer representing an exotic dancer. The text is clinical and devastating. It details a party with underage girls where Epstein and Prince Andrew explicitly requested a threesome before offering the victim a trip to the Virgin Islands. Let's not forget the great Queen Lizzie allegedly gave her innocent son around £12 million to settle with Epstein whistleblower Virginia Gifford. King Charles now saw the unredacted intelligence. He knew the plausible deniability was gone and Andrew had to vanish.
Well, it's not just a downgrade. They say it's moving from a palace to a shoebox, is what he said. It's tiny. It's got the boot, basically. It's the lodge lockout. And what's happened? It's the final Sandringham squeeze. The disgraced Duke has been downsized in this dramatic demotion. He was previously rattling around in this wonderful 30-room royal lodge, which I've spoken about many, many times. And we predicted where he's going to disappear to. I did say probably the big move's going to be after Christmas, so he doesn't embarrass anybody, although it's a bit late for all of that. But he's basically going to be going probably up to Sandringham. Whilst he's trying to get there, there's this tiny shoebox of a place. I'm sure his shoebox is a bit different to our shoeboxes, but that's what's going to happen as a result of it. There has been talk, as I've talked again with you about, him possibly moving to Bahrain due to business ties there, and he's apparently expressed desires, I can exclusively reveal, to move into Prince Philip's previous retirement property, which was Wood Farm. So do look out for that in the new year if that's actually discussed. But the people are a bit concerned, the family's a little bit concerned that if he is there, that might be a little close to the rest of them.
Okay, and what about Prince William and Princess Catherine's move to Forest Lodge? Because there are reports that locals are expressing backlash over this ring of steel around their new home, expressing that they feel unwelcome on their own turf. Talk to us about this.
Well, it is tears and turmoil, isn't it? We talked about this last time as they've moved into this forever home, which all sounds very good in principle, but it is Windsor woes, and the security siege sparks sorrow and shutouts, is what they've sort of said. What's happened is the park needs to have extra protection now that they're going to be moving to this £16 million Forest Lodge in Windsor Great Park. It's surrounded by vast grounds, but they do need what, as you say, is called the Ring of Steel.
Check the physical logistics of this exile to understand the severity of the institutional panic. Marsh Farm is a dilapidated, 5-bedroom shell situated in a bog in Wolferton. It requires massive renovations, including newly installed CCTV and security fencing, forcing Andrew into a temporary holding pen at Wood Farm. This is not a gentle retirement, it is a quarantine. Sandringham Estate enforces a strict no-catch rule to protect royal pheasants, meaning Andrew is now isolated in a rodent-heavy zone. Notice the institutional rebellion happening on the ground. Estate servants are actively utilizing a loophole, allowing them to refuse service. To the disgraced Duke, a massive portion of the staff has simply said no thanks to the total pariah. The monarchy isn't just cutting off his funding, they are severing his entire operational infrastructure. But Andrew is just the aristocratic distraction. The real institutional rot lies in the political intelligence network exposed by the DOJ dump. Shift your focus to the leaked Peter Mandelson emails. Before we analyze the stolen state secrets, follow the money.
Almost exactly the same time, around this period, that Epstein was making the donations, gifts, call them what you will, to Lord Mandelson's partner. So, of course, there's never a quid pro quo, just as I never say to friends in the pub, I'll buy you a pint if you later buy me a pint.
Sure.
But we know the buying of pints is linked. And surely Epstein knew there was a link between him making the payments to Mandelson and Mandelson leaking to him. There was an analysis from Shruti Vadera, who was an advisor to Gordon Brown, right at the centre of the government's handling the financial crisis. And she was talking about ways of improving lending to small business by freeing up the financial sector, increasing non-banks, that means private equity, private funds, increasing securitisation. So right in the wheelhouse of Epstein's Wall Street clients. And this email was initially sent to some people, including Peter Mandelson. Then Jeremy Hayward, who was the Prime Minister's private secretary, replied with further thoughts. Then that email was sent 4 seconds later
Look at the direct financial pipeline between Epstein and the British cabinet. Between 2009 and 2010, while Mandelson was serving as the UK business secretary, Epstein placed Mandelson's partner, Reynaldo Avila da Silva, on a direct monthly stipend of $4,000. Cross-reference the bank deposits. The payments totaled upwards of $75,000. This was not a friendship. This was an ongoing, compensated intelligence operation happening inside the highest levels of the Gordon Brown ministry.
The US Department of Justice, they suggest that the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein had paid Peter Mandelson tens of thousands of euros in the early 2000s. And on top of that, the UK Metropolitan Police is now considering an investigation into Peter Mandelson's behavior, and that's over accusations that he acted improperly when he was trade minister. So during the financial crisis, 2009-2010, he is accused of, or it looks like that he sent on very sensitive information that he was privy of because he was a member of the cabinet, that he sent very sensitive information, market-sensitive information, on to Jeffrey Epstein, who then sent it on to US banks.
Now, not the data flow. Mandelson wasn't just taking money. The digital forensics prove he was an active intelligence asset feeding highly classified, market-moving data directly to Epstein. This wasn't poor judgment. It was the facilitation of transnational insider trading.
Was an email where he seems to give Epstein advance notice of an enormous EU bailout after the financial crisis. Epstein emailed Mandelson, sources tell me 500 billion euro bailout almost complete. There was a reply, seemingly from Mandelson, although this is one of the cases where the email address is redacted, that said should be announced tonight. And hours later, EU finance ministers did indeed approve that bailout.
This is state capture. In a December 2009 email exchange, facing a proposed UK tax on bankers' bonuses, Mandelson strategized with Epstein to manipulate government policy. Epstein asked if the tax might only apply to the cash portion of bonuses. Mandelson replied, trying hard to amend. Treasury digging in, but I am on case. Most alarmingly, Mandelson actively advised Epstein on how Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon should mildly threaten. The UK Chancellor, utilizing the leverage of US banks acting as buyers of UK gilts. A sitting UK cabinet minister was weaponizing his office to enrich and empower a foreign sex trafficker. The Liberal Democrats have now formally demanded the Financial Conduct Authority launch an immediate investigation into the massive financial fraud these leaks enabled. The security breaches escalated from financial leverage to physical vulnerability. In the timestamps on May 10, 2010, in one email, Mandelson tells Epstein, finally got him to go today, explicitly referencing the resignation of Prime Minister Gordon Brown.
He also seems to reveal to Epstein that Gordon Brown was having, quote, secret talks with Nick Clegg, the Lib Dem leader, in the Foreign Office. There is also a point where Mandelson seems to email Epstein and say, finally got him to go today. I finally got Gordon Brown to agree to resign as Prime Minister, tender his resignation to the then Queen. And later that day, Gordon Brown did announce he would stand down as Labour leader and facilitate further coalition negotiations.
In a separate email sent the exact same day, Mandelson reveals a highly classified physical vulnerability, the existence of a secret underground tunnel connecting 10 Downing Street directly to the Ministry of Defence. Why does a convicted trafficker need the architectural schematics of the British government's secure escape routes? The sheer volume of compromised national security data explains why the Metropolitan Police just escalated this to a criminal probe. Look at the police response. The Metropolitan Police have formally launched an investigation into Mandelson for misconduct in public office and archaic, severe offense carrying a maximum sentence of life imprisonment.
Let me tell you what they say in the statement. Deputy Assistant Commissioner Hayley Stewart of the Met says, I can confirm that officers from the Met's Central Specialist Crime Team are in the process of carrying out search warrants at 2 addresses. One, they say, in the Wiltshire area and another in the Camden area. The searches, they say, are related to an ongoing investigation into misconduct in public office offences involving a 72-year-old man. The statement says he has not been arrested and inquiries are ongoing. So that has just come from the Metropolitan Police. Of course, it is a week almost exactly.
Detectives executed no-knock search warrants at two addresses connected to Mandelson, a property in Camden and a rented home in Wiltshire. Officers seized electronic devices, including phones, computers, and USB sticks, hunting for the remnants of the defunct private BT internet email address used to transmit these state secrets. The authorities are terrified of what else is hidden on those hard drives.
In 2008, UK media is reporting that two homes linked to Lord Mandelson have been searched, and the UK government is pledging to release all documents related to Lord Mandelson's appointment as the United States ambassador in 2025.
This systemic complicity infected the current administration. Despite Mandelson's historical ties to Epstein, Starmer appointed him as the UK ambassador to the United States in December 2024.
Is that Peter Mandelson is incredibly well known in this country. He's far better known than Andy Burnham or Robert General Swiller-Braven, any of the other politicians we've seen enter the spotlight over the last few weeks who aren't the sort of principal party leaders. And he is synonymous with Labour because he's been around for so long. He's been associated with so many different Labour governments. And I don't think when the public think about Peter Mandelson, they'll think that's a problem contained to a different era of the Labour Party. They will think about it as the same Labour Party that we have now, especially because their views of that Labour Party, this current one, and Keir Starmer are so bad. They're not going to give him any benefit of the doubt. And then the second part of that is that, okay, they know who Peter Mandelson is. They don't think very well of Labour Party.
Starmer was forced to admit on the parliamentary floor that the official security vetting absolutely flagged Mandelson's ongoing relationship with the trafficker. Yet the appointment was pushed through anyway.
Mandelson betrayed our country, our parliament, and my party. Mr. Speaker, he lied repeatedly to my team when asked about his relationship with Epstein before and during his tenure as ambassador. I regret appointing him. If I knew then what I know now, he would never have been anywhere near government. The House would expect. We went through a process. There was a due diligence exercise, and then there was security vetting by the security services. What was not known was the depth, the sheer depth and extent of the relationship. He lied about that to everyone.
This willful blindness has triggered a political meltdown, forcing the resignation of Starmer's chief of staff, Morgan McSweeney, and legally compelling the government to release all appointment documents via a humble address motion.
Now some breaking news here in the UK. In the world of politics, we're getting notification that Number 10 has confirmed that Morgan McSweeney has resigned as the Prime Minister's chief of staff. There was a question mark over his position, given that he was supportive of appointing Lord Mandelson as the UK ambassador to the United States. The Number 10 now confirming that Morgan McSweeney has quit as Sir Keir Starmer's chief of staff.
Meanwhile, the disgraced ex-Prince Andrew's ex-wife is in hot waters as well.
If you just look at what Sarah Ferguson was emailing Jeffrey Epstein, just to give a little flavour, it's things like, "Thank you, Jeffrey, for being the brother I've always wished for. You are a legend. I really don't have the words to describe my love, gratitude for your generosity and kindness. I am at your service. Just marry me." Some of the new stuff emerging today has been, though, about where the cracks began to show in 2011 in her relationship with Epstein, where she writes this slightly strange message to him, which we hadn't been aware of, talking about him having a baby and congratulating him, where she says, "Congratulations on you having a baby. I didn't even know you were having a baby, but it's so crystal clear to me that you were only friends with me to get to Andrew, and that really hurt me deeply, more than you will know." So I mean, you can see the sort of gushing, fawning nature of her messages.
The former Duchess even joked about her daughter Princess Eugenie's private life with him.
There's also some really uncomfortable stuff where she sort of jokes about her daughter's sex life, Eugenie's sex life, in the messages to him. She asks him for money, for rent. So it's quite brazen in its approach.
Senior royal correspondent Daniela Relf pointed out that the couple was downright subservient to him.
But what also struck me in reading all the exchanges between Epstein and Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor and Sarah Ferguson is that Epstein has the power. He is the power player here. They are offering things, do you want to come to Buckingham Palace? What about Windsor Castle? And he just says, yeah, gives them a date and a time and goes for it. He is the one in charge of this relationship. And that is what has particularly struck me about the email exchanges.
And things like, oh, do you want to come to Prince Andrew's 50th birthday party? And then having to follow up to see if he actually wants to come to the party.
Yeah.
So almost like just checking in with him. Are you coming? Is the insinuation there?
Like they're sort of, craving his attention and yearning for his friendship. That seems to be the message on a number of those exchanges.
Whether it is Prince Andrew being forced into a dilapidated Norfolk farm under a drone no-fly zone, or Peter Mandelson facing a potential life sentence for selling out the British economy, the architecture of elite impunity is collapsing in real time. We are watching the real-world consequences of digital paper trails finally catching up with analog corruption. Which piece of data do you think is the final nail in the coffin for the UK establishment? Drop your analysis in the comments below. Hit subscribe to keep the pressure on and stay vigilant. The truth is in the timestamps.